Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of All Access AM. I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for joining me on this Thursday. Two special guests joined the show with us this morning, but I do want to say it's incredible some days, and I don't know if you guys run into this from time to time when you're out living your life or running up your day. We got up early this morning after working a game late last night, went to the gym, got coffee, not only for myself, but brought the wife home a little la la land, took the kiddo to school. We get lined up. We have the show already pre planned. We've got two great guests. We had everything all lined up. And guess what? Camera didn't work. Takes a simple restart of your computer. And we have now restarted the show, of course, just a couple minutes late for you guys this morning. So sorry about that. But what is it, as they say, the best laid plans? Well, some teams in the ACC certainly dealing with some of those issues with their best laid plans that have now fallen apart. We'll talk about the ACC basketball race for the NCAA tournament as seeding kind of gets lined up and pretty locked in for the most part across the league with Jamie Shaw in just about 5 minutes now, as he will join us representing the On3 network. But we're not done there as well. Nathan Breisinger will join us from the On3 network as well to break down Pitt as they get into spring ball already. Pitt Sports Now is where you can find his work. He'll join us at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, and we appreciate you guys for being with us. But Jerry Morphew, this is a great segue. Good morning, Billy. Bad outcome for the home team last night. And yes, he means the SMU Mustangs as they lost in Moody Coliseum to Miami 77-69. The number 22 Hurricanes showed why they're an NCAA tournament team, controlling that game the entire way, having the lead early, never giving SMU one single second of a lead. Really disappointing for Andy Enfield's squads. And you could say what you want about BJ Edwards being out and the impact that he's had on this team over the last 2.5 games that he's missed. And that is valid because he is that good, apparently, as we're watching them completely fall apart offensively as well. But when you look at what SMU has put out the last two complete games at Stanford, at Miami, it's not good enough from a pure effort level. And I think that's what this team is trending towards being remembered as, is a team that had all the talent in the world, but could not put together a consistent season because they lacked the consistency in commitment and playing at that high level of basketball you have to in the ACC. And we see that at times, right? Like NC State is sliding right now. They're a team that their best laid plans certainly kind of falling apart here in a way. Louisville's battled that a little bit. They've also had the injury with Michael Brown. All sorts of things that go wrong in terms of college basketball. Heck, Cal just beat SMU last week in a huge home game and then basically blows their shot at an NCAA tournament by losing to Pitt a couple days later at home. So that is the college sports world that we live in right now, is how do you manage to bring that consistency out of these teams? And I just got to say, Jay Lucas, my first extended interaction with him, I've watched him from afar come up through the coaching ranks, as, kind of a hot shot young name in the college basketball space. His father, John Lucas, is a legend here in Texas and in the basketball world, really. And he stayed patient for that first coaching job. And you see why all that waiting has now paid off. Whether it be learning at Texas, learning at Kentucky, learning at Duke, he's just been through, I don't want to say so much because it's been this steady, impressive rise for him, but it's also a coach that you could see being one of the best in the country for years to come. And I think it's just the way he operates and the way he's able to bring the best out of his team. So we'll talk more about ACC basketball with Jamie Shaw in just a second. But of course, the Thursday show is brought to you by our friends at Horn Legend. And Horn Legend can get you hooked up for this St. Patrick's Day. Make sure you guys go check out what they can put in your wardrobe over at hornlegend.com. I always struggle with St. Patrick's Day. I'm not a huge I'm not a Notre Dame guy. I'm not going to sit here and wear green and blue all the time. But if I was a Notre Dame fan, let alone looking for something for St. Patrick's Day, I would be checking out what they have at Horn Legend. We're just a couple weeks away from needing to wear green, unless you want to lock yourself in your house that day and not get pinched, right? But Horn Legend doesn't just have that. They have a whole selection of polos that you can get lined up for springtime. So you make sure you're looking good, whether you're out on the golf course, on a patio, getting ready to watch the Masters or March Madness, whatever. They've got all the polos for this time of year that you should be getting in the mail very, very quickly when you order. I ordered something from Horn Legend. It came 2 days later, not even on a rush. So they take care of you when you order with Horn Legend. They've got a special going on where they'll give you a free jacket when you order $750 worth of clothing or more. That's big spending, but nice jacket. So make sure you guys check out our friends at Horn Legend, and also check out the work of our friend Jamie Shaw at On3. And Jamie joins us now on All Access AM. We appreciate his time this morning. As look, that final push for conference tournament time for the ACC is here. We're seeing college basketball, the bubble, the March Madness pick up. This is that best time of year right now for college hoops fans.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's you're just seeing everything. We have the sample size. We kind of know what players are at this time. We know what teams are, and we're seeing some trends. And I think this year what we're seeing is there's a lot of parity within the game. So not only in the ACC, but when you look at the totality of college basketball right now, there's not one single team at the top. There's a grouping of teams who can make a run. So now all the conversations surrounding the NCAA tournament coming up are super exciting because everybody's got a different perspective, a different thought, a different team that they're going to ride. And, that's going to make what brackets are fun. It's going to make the tournament fun. It's going to make all that stuff continue to be just – and it makes sense as to why college basketball right now is so high up when it comes to viewership. I mean, everybody's watching because there's so much excitement. And you have superstars in the game again with all these freshmen that are playing and guys coming back at NIL that didn't go to the draft that could have possibly. And it's just a great time to be a college basketball fan right now.
When you look at this league, we'll get to the weekend preview, of course, with some key games. But I want to ask you about two teams really quickly here. NC State and SMU, two on a slide in a sense that are just really disappointing. How can you kind of put into perspective the difficulty of being in this league, the challenge that it faces, but also how do you think fans should feel at times when you see a team that is going to the NCAA tournament, in NC State's case, and SMU could probably end up still sneaking in, but you're having this slide at the end of the season? It's one of those weird things where people don't know how to feel.
Well, once tournament play starts, everything resets. So you'll sit there and see teams in the past and the precedents being set of a team sliding going into it. Something clicks during the conference tournament play. They go to the NCAA tournament and get a little bit of a run going and smooth some things out. But it's never fun when you're on a slide, having multiple game skids, especially a couple games where you're getting blown out pretty poorly. It's never easy for fans to do that. And it's never easy for the coaches to, but it's also the precedent has been set previously to where, even if you're on a slide or whatever, you can have something click during conference play and conference tournament play, and then just go on to a nice little run. So everything resets when it comes to tournament time.
Let's get into this weekend of play and where this league is. Let's start with Carolina Duke, the latest edition of this rivalry game. Doesn't really impact things in a huge way, from an overall ACC seeding and things like that. But just an opportunity for Carolina to kind of finish strong here and be locked in, and kind of make their final push for seeding for March Madness.
Well, the first game that they played was an all-time classic. It was an instant classic that they had. Seth Trimble knocking down the shot at the buzzer to win and storming the court and everything. And that was big. That was big for Hubert Davis. That was big for UNC. Now all eyes are going to be on Caleb Wilson. Caleb Wilson was fantastic that game. The first go around, he's been out for the past 6 games, of which UNC's gone on have gone 5-1. The interesting thing about that is throughout those 6 games, 4 different guys led them in scoring for the Tar Heels. So Caleb Wilson out, who's been one of the most impactful players this college basketball season. And then everybody else steps up. So it's going to be very interesting to see, does he play this game? Does he come back for this game? Will he show, what do his minutes look like? How does that rotation look? And how does everything kind of slide back into place when you have Duke coming in, who has the most dominant player in college basketball, one of the best players we've seen in recent memory in college basketball with Cam Boozer, with the impact that he's bringing to the college game, and John Shire, who is absolutely on a roll right now when it comes to being able to find mismatches and really exploiting what the other team is giving them, and putting his team in advantageous situations throughout the course. I was making a joke the other day talking that John Shire and Cam Boozer have been the best 1-2 punch in college basketball this year. Obviously, they're the number one team right now. Boozer's been fantastic, but John Shire's been absolutely in his bag this season as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this matchup. Does Caleb Wilson play? What does his minutes look like? What does that rotation look like? And how does UNC come back with the game at Duke, at Cameron? They've been camping out in tents for months now, waiting to get these tickets, and it's sure going to be an unbelievable environment that we're going to be able to feel through the TV and watching that game.
And Isaiah Evans stepping up for Duke to provide that scoring. We've talked a lot about that on this show. You just with the need for them to kind of round things out, but equally as impressive, the job that Hubert Davis has done down this stretch without Caleb Wilson. They get Henry Visar back after he missed a couple games here. They've been able to find these ways to win. I thought it was impressive they were able to get that win over Clemson as well. They've just, in a season where earlier this year, everybody, I think, was starting to say, I don't know if this is going to work out for Hubert Davis. He's thrown all that out. He's not listened to that. And he's just been able to do an incredible job coaching this team.
No, for sure. And back to, I guess, two points there. The Isaiah Evans factor. I believe that in games that Isaiah Evans has scored 17 or more points, Duke's like 9 or 10-0 in those games. So getting him to be that second factor, that second force, pulling that gravity and making those shots is huge for Duke and what they're able to do, winning ball games and becoming more of a threat offensively, being more expansive offensively. And then to Hubert Davis, absolutely. They come into the season. There's an obvious advantage that they brought with the two bigs, with Visar and Caleb Wilson. Questions about the guard play coming up. Seth Trimble goes through his injury. They get him back. Then Caleb Wilson gets his injury. So they haven't necessarily been 100% full strength since the very beginning of the season. But even with that, guys like Jonathan Powell, guys like Jaron Stevenson, Zayden High, Luka Bogovac, who was really good in the past game against Clemson, those guys are stepping into roles and finding some success and building their confidence. So now, once they get that full 100% team together, it's going to be very interesting to see how that confidence from everybody lends over into being the rotations and what the UNC is able to do.
5:30 p.m. Central Time for us on ESPN for that one, of course. How do you see it playing out? Do you think Duke keeps things rolling the way they're playing here down the stretch? Has just been so impressive.
Billy, as you know, rivalry games you can never predict it. There's obvious factors that go into everything, and UNC coming with the next one, with the last one, I'm sure Duke's going to have something for them in this one. But UNC's been able to counterpunch this entire season so far, for the most part. So it's going to be one that I'm definitely going to be tuned in for. I don't know how it's going to play out. Again, rivalry games, you just throw it all out the window and see who comes out on top.
When we look at this weekend slate, some key matchups here, just down the stretch, I look at SMU now heading to Florida State, and that game for the Mustangs and their ability to get into the NCAA tournament is so critical. 1:00 tilt Central Time on ACC Network. They've lost the last 3 games. They've lost them in kind of 3 different ways in a sense, but without BJ Edwards, this appears to be a totally different team right now. Put into perspective what that injury means as far as maybe the committee evaluating this group, and then also just the challenge of riding that ship that they've got here just a couple days from now.
Yeah, so I guess now what you're seeing with this SMU team is you have 2 very, very good guards. The guards who like to score the ball in different ways with Pierre and Boopie Miller. Very talented players and everything. They're going to need to get, I guess, ball movement, continuity, and all that type of stuff within the offense, and to be able to get more out of the other players on the floor at that time. I think both of them have had 20 points in the last couple of games, and maybe everybody else kind of hovering between 11, 9, 8, and on down from there. So getting more out of their guys, keeping the ball hot, keeping everybody involved in the offense will be very interesting to see how that plays out. But also, just from a standpoint, they're going to have to defend the three better, and they're going to have to rebound better. SMU coming in, they're giving up a lot of threes. Obviously, this FSU with Luke Locks, they're looking to shoot threes as well. They're going to have to defend against the three better, and then rebound the basketball. It's as old as time when it comes to key points in winning basketball games. You can go all the way back to since they were playing in peach baskets. Rebounding the basketball wins your ball games. SMU's going to have to rebound the basketball better.
And I think watching this SMU Miami game play out last night and seeing the work that Jay Lucas has done in this first year for him, and seeing what Luke Locks has done, kind of turning things around. This FSU team, and they gave SMU everything they can handle on the front side of this 1-1. When you see these rosters that have been put together from an athletic perspective, that are at least now in FSU's case starting to click, and then in Miami's case really clicking, do you notice any similarities from a scouting mind that stands out to you?
Well, they're differently put together. Kind of with FSU, what you have is you have one guy in Rob McCray that's kind of the central focal piece, and a whole bunch of people kind of around Rob that get involved and make their plays, and they have everybody buying into the team concept surrounding the lead guard, Rob McCray. With the Miami team, sure, Trey Donaldson's been awesome. Malik Renault's been getting his, but they have a little bit more firepower when it comes to multiple guys that you can just are going to get some things done. Also add Ernest Ado in there, and you have Shelton Henderson as well. So a little bit differently constructed when it comes to team concepts surrounding one guy and let him be the focal point as around to like a team of multiple things that can give you multiple different looks.
And when you look at how SMU can overcome the them missing BJ Edwards, I can't imagine he plays on Saturday. When you see Boopy Miller, Jerron Pierre, they're putting up 21 and 27 in those two cases last night. But man, it just seems like Andy Enfield and the staff, they've got to find ways to manufacture more scoring from their other options. I mean, how do you do that late in the season? Andy Enfield talked about it last night being something where, look, we're learning to play without a player who's played a bunch of basketball. He's kind of our glue guy. He's added 14 points. He adds 5, 6 assists a game. They're just kind of listless offensively right now.
Well, and that's kind of the thing. Pierre and Boopy Miller have scored the ball in college for multiple years now. We know that they can go get buckets, and they're one of the better people in the ACC in going to score the basketball. Losing BJ Edwards, is, just as you mentioned, is that glue. He's the guy that initiates. He's the guy that takes care of the basketball, gets everything going. So now with him not in the game, you're either asking a backup to come in and take his minutes, or you're asking Pierre and Boopy Miller to do something that they're not really accustomed to do, which is running an offense and also guarding at the point of attack. Defensively, BJ bringing with his big physical size and frame and all that type of stuff. So, it's a shift. Losing the glue is a shift in what everybody else is able to do when it comes to on the offensive end of the floor, and then what they're trying to do on defense and everything. And while you see the numbers of what Boopy's able to do, of what Jaren's able to do, it's a little bit awkward in the placing the pieces of the puzzle together.
Let's go over to the other side of that SMU Miami matchup from last night. We go to Miami, the victors, looking to close out their regular season with another impressive win. They host Louisville on Saturday as they get them at 1:00 Central Time on ESPNU. This game feels like it should be on, maybe ESPN1 or ESPN2, but they've stashed it on the U to maybe raise some viewership there. But this is a really high level basketball game that's going to be played, and two teams that, for one, Miami's looking to improve their NCAA tournament seeding, and for Louisville, I mean, they're trying to do that as well, but also just kind of finish the regular season on a high note.
Yeah, Miami, Jay Lucas did a really good job of putting this roster together when you have just multiple ways that they can get you. Malik Renault has been pretty consistent this whole year, even coming into ACC play, 53% from the field, 18 points per game in ACC play. But Trey Donaldson has really taken that step forward as the lead guard. He's the guy that kind of puts pressure on the defense at the point of attack. He's the guy who plays in the paint, moves the ball around, guards, and makes life uncomfortable for the opposing team. And then you have other guys able to step up. Ernest Uday, you have Dante Allen, you have Shelton Henderson. Those guys, everybody buying into their role of what they're able to do, but they're able to beat you on the perimeter. They're able to beat you down low. They're able to win a slobber knocker of a game. They're able to play fast. There's just a bunch of multiple looks they're able to give you. And Trey taking that step was big for Miami. Malik Renault's been consistent throughout the year. But they're playing some really good basketball right now, and they're really, really kind of hitting a stride. It's going to be interesting to see how they close this the regular season out and going into conference tournament play, what that looks like.
When you look at Miami, what can a season like this do? As somebody, you're locked in on recruiting for us at on3rivals.com. What can a season like this do for Miami? We know Jay Lucas's credentials and his ability to recruit, and now he's showing what he can do as a first-time head coach. When you see the plan quickly come together, just how much can that help these programs kind of continue to elevate and build that momentum, even in today's age of, all right, NIL, money, revenue sharing?
Well, you have something to sell, because still, even today, talking with the best players regularly and everything, they want to win. People want to win. Being able to show, hey, we did this in year one. We're putting this together. We have these minutes. This is how we play and all that stuff. Having something tangible there to show, it just helps the conversations move along. I mean, obviously, you're recruiting to Miami, beautiful area. People vacation there and do all that. Prestigious school. You have athletic history and everything. But to be able to point at, what they're doing this season, being ranked in the top 25, being in the toward the top of the ACC in year one, all this type of stuff is just massive to be able to, it enhances the story that you're telling.
And lastly, I mean, for FSU, the way they finish, you go into the portal, they're not going to make the NCAA tournament, barring them going on an absolute rip through the ACC tournament, which, look, they're a scary basketball team to face with their athletes, but just the momentum that Luke Locks can build in the offseason as well.
No, for sure. And they seem to be very targeted when it comes to their recruiting. They seem to have guys that they're getting on early and evaluating early and just going after those guys. They know what they want on their roster. Luke knows how he wants to play. He's got, a staff of guys around him that knows what they're trying to do and buy in on, and they're going after those lengthy, versatile players. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them bring in some shooters as well. Spacing the floor and stuff, but you bring in lengthy athletes with some shooting around it, and there's a lot of stuff you can do there when it comes versatility-wise.
All right, Jamie Shaw, it's going to be a fun little stretch here of a weekend of basketball before we get into the rest of conference tournaments and March Madness. We'll be looking forward to having you back on to chat about that.
Billy, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime. There he goes. Jamie Shaw joining us on All Access AM. We appreciate him for stopping in with us on this Thursday. We appreciate all of you guys who are tuned in with us. We are live 8 to 9 a.m. Central Time, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. And you can catch us as well on Apple and Spotify podcast playlists. Make sure you guys support our sponsor, Horn Legend, as well. And click on the link in the bio for more on what Horn Legend can do for you. And, of course, also want to remind you guys that we have our friends at Sportsmo. And I bring that up because college basketball is heating up, and your team is going to postseason play in the NCAA tournament or NIT, or maybe they're not. Maybe this is the final weekend, or you have these last couple games with your conference tournament. Download Sportsmo today, get the Sportsmo app, and donate to your favorite college team. It goes right to their student athlete fund, so you can support those athletes with their revenue sharing and things like that. It's a great way. They've also added the head-to-head feature, which means you can battle each other out for bragging rights over opposing fans. So you can bet your favorite friend of a college team and say, hey, I think SMU is going to come out on top against FSU. Oh, yeah? Well, if SMU wins, $5 from you, which is literally taking it out of FSU's fund, would go from your friend, and vice versa if the Mustangs don't pull it off this weekend. So consider that. Bring them in and check out what Sportsmo is all about today.
College basketball hits different with Sportsmo. You tap, they score. You pledge, they drop a 3. You give as a group, they win as a team. At this point, you're not watching a game, you're in it. Download the app, fund your wallet, and get in the game. Download Sportsmo. Power the play.
That's right. And we'll be joined here very shortly by Nathan Breisinger of Pittsburgh Sports Now, who covers the Pitt Panthers. The Panthers going through spring ball already. I love the schools that get out there and get it going right away in March. The dead period has lifted as well. So recruiting is starting to get going for a lot of these schools, and they'll be hosting visitors and things like that. Well, Pitt can be one of those teams that right off the bat, they're able to bring in recruits as well for those spring ball practices. I think they're in, what is it, Mr. Nathan Breisinger, as you join us now? Is it day 1, day 2? Are we going on day 3 of spring football for Pitt?
Hey, Billy, first of all, thanks for having me. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're heading into day 3 on Friday. So 2 in the book so far. And man, did the last 2 months fly by this offseason. So, I mean, Pitt was in the bowl game December 27th. There was teams playing obviously after that with the playoffs and whatnot, but it flew.
It really does. I can't believe we're already through February, let alone some schools starting spring football. I saw Clemson's back at it, I think, Arkansas, South Carolina. I mean, we're in it now. And for you, let's do this. We're probably going to do it a little backwards, but that's okay. What are some of your initial impressions of the Panthers now that they're back on the field, and some of the key storylines you're watching in spring ball?
Yeah, I think, they've looked good. I mean, but you have to take it with a grain of salt because it's so early. There's a lot of moving pieces with Pitt, and you look at the roster and the way things sort of turned over from last year. Couple of big pieces that left for the portal, couple of, they brought in 16 scholarship guys from the portal. They have 4 new assistant coaches. I think that's one big thing to watch for. New defensive coordinator. He was with the program, coaching the safeties for 8 years. Corey Sanders, internally promoted, now taking over the roles there for Randy Bates, who retired. New safeties coach, Harlan Barnett, also the assistant head coach there as well, came from Northwestern, longtime Michigan State coach. Brent Davis at tight ends, was at Virginia Tech last year, longtime Army offensive coordinator, and then Mike Prefer, the special teams coordinator. So those are a couple big keys right there, watching those coaches and see how they're sort of molding their units so far in spring. I think that's been the one thing I definitely have been watching for over these first couple of days, just especially the special teams, because we only see about 30 minutes of a lot of practice time. And a lot of that time we do get to see like special teams. And like for Prefer's case, we get to see who he's working with back at kick returner, back at, what's going on with the kicking duties, what's going on with the punting duties, because everything's pretty much new in that room. And then on top of that, you have to look at the quarterback situation. Mason Heinschel's coming back as a sophomore. What type of steps is he making? I will say it's 2 days into practice. It's spring camp, it's early, but man, he looks so sharp. He's throwing the ball with a lot of zip on it. He doesn't take a pass off, never any lazy passes. Now behind him, there's a lot of questions, just with the depth, the way things are looking. And that's the case with a lot of these units as well throughout the roster.
One piece I've been wanting to chat with you about is Mason Heinschel, kind of under the radar in a sense from what I look at as the end of the season. We saw what happened with Darian Mensah. We saw some of the portal movements around college football at the quarterback position. What did you hear on your end as far as getting him back and locked in? Because, there was no fanfare. There was no like, hey, I'm back or locked in again. Is that obviously maybe a little bit of a Pat Narduzzi style with how he's going to approach things? But the retention of Mason Heinschel, man, they should have been running billboards and banners, I feel like.
Yeah, that's obviously a huge retention piece. Like, he's your face of the program for at least the next, hopefully, 2 years at least. He did post something, but like not until like January, like basically right before the portal was about to close. And it was like, why are you posting this now when you could have done this at least 2-3 weeks ago? But it was a weird process for Pitt this time around. Things moved kind of slowly. They took their time with some things. There was guys that hopped in the portal that maybe you thought weren't late in the portal process when the window was open. There were some guys that were on the fence about it, and then they struck some deals, and obviously to get them to come back late in the process, right before the portal closed. So for Heinschel, yeah, that was a huge piece. what we heard was that they struck a deal with him during the season. They re-upped his deal once he started to actually play and make some starts and actually was playing very well. So they did something during the season that sort of locked him in for 2026. But what we heard is there's still things that could happen in the portal that could change his mind just because he's locked into a deal here. If a team happens to come, give him some money, who knows? Maybe he's not at Pitt in 2026. But I think the big thing was we were kind of waiting to see what was going on with Cade Bell because his name was thrown around a couple of times for some offensive coordinator openings. Clemson a little bit. Florida was the top one for a little while, even Florida State for a little bit. But once Bell was sort of reassured that he was staying in Pittsburgh, I think that led to Heinzel being like, okay, for sure. But Heinzel spoke on Monday and said that he's always wanted to be here. So there really wasn't a whole lot of thought. He just took that first couple of weeks after the bowl game to debrief and sort of reset himself. So, but yeah, it's a huge piece to have back in this offense for Pitt.
And the Panthers have to kind of reload, it feels like, around him. Just kind of watching some of the portal departures. How would you grade out Pitt's ability to retain? And we'll kind of focus there first, especially pieces offensively around him, because I feel like, at least from an outsider's perspective, you look at a team like NC State, CJ Bailey, yeah, they got him back, but you also lost like a Hollywood Smothers. So how did Pitt do in some of those areas as far as keeping the talent around Mason Heinzel?
I think the one thing in terms of the weapons around him, same thing with Mason. They kept their young freshman, rising sophomore running back in Ja'Kirian Turner. That was a huge piece to maintain and get back on the roster, and they did so because he could be really good in the ACC for the next 2 to 3 years. He has great burst. Is a really fun player to watch. But then the receiver core was a big hit. Now, some of those guys were already set to graduate, along with running back Desmond Reed, who really didn't play much in 2025. So I don't even view that as a super big loss because he wasn't in the picture much last year. But I think the one big one is Kenny Johnson. You lose him to Texas Tech. He was sort of your number one receiver, a little bit of a bigger body, can go make some contested, tough catches. Was still working on his route running, so there was still some growth there, but he was up there as probably arguably your number one receiver on the team and had a chance to come back for his senior year and finish things out in Pittsburgh, but he went to Texas Tech, a team that obviously does so well in the portal. But when you look at who they replaced, the receiver room lost 3 of their top 4 producers from last year. They didn't replace it with much. And I think that's what's left a lot of fans and a lot of people skeptical about this team is they brought in Malik Knight from Western Carolina, which is where Cade Bell was. And Pitt has done a really good job of bringing in, sort of building a little bit of a pipeline, almost like it's their farm system down there at Western Carolina, because Des Reed was from there. Raphael Williams, who had a great year last year at receiver, was from there. Sincere Lee, who is back this year at receiver, who was hurt all last year, was there as well. So Knight had a productive year at the FCS level a year ago with 700 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns. So the production's there, the consistency there. He has some speed. He's a little bit bigger at 6'1" for what Pitt likes to use in the receiver room, but will it translate? It's worked for a couple of these guys, but will it do the same for Knight? We don't know. But the rest of the receiver room, they're banking on young, homegrown high school talent. They brought in 7 receivers in the last 2 high school recruiting classes. They're looking for someone to step up in there. And I just don't know, there's been some guys that showed some flashes last year, Bryce Yates, Tony Kinsler, but we'll see where the development is. I think Kinsler looks really good in spring. He's one of the top guys in that unit so far throughout the first couple of days. And then Kateris Hicks returns for Pitt, was one of their top receivers last year, top 3 or 4. And he was the Louisville transfer from a year ago, so he'll be in the mix. But really, as a guy that you can really reliably go to, right now they just don't have that. Running back, they're okay with Turner because he's back. He's really shown that he can be a number 1 guy. They lost Joel Goff, who was a guy you could have brought back. I think that one, you would maybe like to keep him, but he was out the door pretty quickly at the end of the regular season. And they brought in some veteran experience in Western Kentucky's Lavelle Wright, a little bit of a more power running back. Again, a little bit different from the system they like to use. They like their quick backs, but Wright brings some power, had 10 touchdowns last year. So that's a nice little combo you have there with Turner and Wright. And then they're looking at some redshirt freshmen there to continue to be healthy because they dealt with some injuries last year and stay healthy and be impactful in the running back room.
Defensively, it seems like some talent, obviously left the high profile one, Rasheem Biles, of course, but there's just seems like this Pitt defense, is going to have new faces step up. One guy, Braylon Lovelace, is somebody that is expected to help out in that role at outside linebacker. What have you seen from him as he's, one of these vocal leaders that has to really step into that role and really probably take a backs against the wall mentality where, people are going to say things about, Pitt's defense without some of these key guys, but, they're a hard-nosed bunch and they want to reflect that.
Yeah, I think the first thing I want to touch on, though, is to talk about Rasheem Biles. I mean, that's your biggest loss.
Huge.
Hands down. I mean, you look at Francis Brew at D tackle. I mean, that's one you'd like to have back for sure because he was only going to be believe a junior, so you still had a couple more years out of him. But Biles is probably going to be an All-American in 2026. He's that good. He plays so well. He's a difference maker on defense. But Lovelace, he's got a little bit of that to him. I mean, he had a big 100-yard pick six last year against Georgia Tech. He had another interception on the year. He has 3 or 4 defensive touchdowns in his career so far, 2 pick six, a fumble recovery return for a touchdown in his freshman year at Virginia Tech. So he has those abilities. Now, last year, he was slid into the middle linebacker position, which is not sort of his natural fit because they graduated 2 guys from 2024 there. But now he's moving back outside to the money linebacker position, which is where he kind of worked at his first 2 years. So I think that might be a better fit, allows him to maybe get into the backfield a little bit more and be a little bit more of a difference maker instead of more of a run stopper, which I don't think is necessarily his fit. This is going to be a huge season for him because he's a senior. He's from Pittsburgh. He's a Whitfield guy. Whitfield high school football is a big deal. He's stuck it out. He's been here for 4 years. He's been an impact player pretty much all 4 years, one way or another. So this is his defense. Like, this is his team. He was a leader at the Mike position last year, just being a guy who has to call the plays. Now, obviously, you're bouncing outside. He could still play inside if they need him, but he's going to be a critical piece of this defense. And then beside him, a middle linebacker, Jeremiah Marcelin's back healthy. So that's where, they're probably looking to start Marcelin and then Lovelace on the outside at money.
And what are your, probably strengths of that Pitt defense in your mind right now? And then where do you need to see, like when you get out there and you're able to pick up the tidbits or, see guys in person on this Pitt defense, see where those areas of, improvement are needed still?
Yeah, I think 3/4 of the secondary is a strength for this Pitt team. Specifically, the cornerbacks, I think, could be really deep this year. Now, obviously, that's got to translate into the season, but they have a lot of different guys that can step in and play and have a good rotation there. Sean Lee specifically was a guy that, reportedly was flirting with the portal. You get him back, he withdraws his name. We were told that he never even entered his name. So obviously a little drama there, but you keep him. He was a true freshman last year, was on 3's true freshman All-American team, had 31 tackles, pick six, couple big pass breakups. He's an undersized guy, but he can be a playmaker there. And then you have a couple other guys. Shadarian Harrison returns. Rashawn Murray's a redshirt senior returns. Didn't have a great year last year, only played a couple of games, but he comes back. But they brought in 2 guys from the transfer portal. Both, again, local talent from Pittsburgh. Rayon Strader was at Auburn in 2025. The big thing about him, he started his career at Miami, Ohio. He's very good at breaking up passes. He has 37 career pass breakups in 3 years. He's been tremendous at doing that, just physical corner. And then Kanye Thompson comes from Division II, so we're curious just to see what type of jump he can make, if he can make that jump and fit in, because Rashawn Murray, I just mentioned, also from Division II, struggled a little bit at doing so, and even Pat Narduzzi said that it was a little disappointing just the production they got from him last year. But Kanye Thompson from Slippery Rock, he's got track speed. And Narduzzi was talking about they really like the fact that he has speed, but he can tackle. You have a nice mix of that there. So I think the cornerback room has 5 options you could possibly start, possibly play there. And then at the boundary safety position, Cruz Brookins, again, we keep talking about these local Pittsburgh guys. Brookins, another Pittsburgh guy, super physical. He's entering his redshirt junior year. He's a big-time playmaker for Pitt, and I really look to him, just like Lovelace, he's going to be the face as well as this Pitt defense. So I look at the secondary to be pretty strong. There's a couple more question marks, though, on the safety unit than the cornerback unit. and a lot of young talent, kind of like what they're doing at receiver. A lot of high school recruits that they got in there. 3 guys they signed in the class this year, and they're looking for some other younger guys to step in. They have Josh Guerriere, who's a sophomore, that they look to take that other starting role. But I'm curious to see how the defensive line shapes up, because their sack numbers have not been great the last 2 years, and they've been really good at getting to the quarterback under Narduzzi before Tim Doust arrived, when Charlie Partridge was here, who's now at Notre Dame. But they were really good at doing so, and the numbers haven't been great, or they just feels like they haven't gotten to the quarterback as much, even if the numbers look okay. So I think they need to find some big edge rushing talent somewhere in the program. Zach Crothers was a guy who started off well last year, then he was lost for the season. Now he's looking to get back. He's still working back from an injury. Isaiah Neal was a guy that was at defensive tackle. He bounced out to the edge because of injury issues. He had to be pushed out there, and he did a good job. He's a little bit of a bigger edge, but a little bit of a smaller tackle. So he's kind of a tweener there, and he does a good job. Tackle-wise, they should be okay defensive tackle-wise, even though they lost Brew to Notre Dame. Sean Fitzsimmons is back. Nick James is back. Some veteran pieces there, and then they went to the portal. Elite Nairn comes from Tulane, a college football playoff team last year, and Jeremiah Warren from Illinois. He brings a lot of size, Warren. I think he could be a big run stuffer for Pitt this year. So I have a little bit more questions on the defensive line more so than say cornerback so far for this Pitt defense.
You guys do such a great job covering it wall to wall at Pittsburgh Sports Now. Tony Forney, the true freshman safety, one of those players that you're kind of high on. It seems like a flip from Missouri, so Pat Narduzzi getting it done on the trail. What are some of those maybe true freshmen that are going to get opportunities here eventually to really step up?
See that? I mean, you're spot on with Forney, because
hey, I'm reading. I'm just the playbook here.
Absolutely, and I said in the one article, I think like this could be one of the sneakier flips, under the radar flips in the entire country recruiting class. And Pitt, even Narduzzi by his own admission, says we don't care about rankings. We don't care too much about how things shape up and where we stack against other programs across the country. It's not that big of a deal for them in that sort of sense, but it is for the fans. Like, a lot of people love to read, the rankings, the stars, and Forney was a very well recruited, player. He was in the SEC with Missouri, and then all of a sudden Pitt flips him. But I don't think a lot of people realize that Pitt flipped him from Missouri. So if he comes in and steps in, I think that could be one of the best flips that Pitt pulled off in the entire country, in the entire recruiting class, because there's a need. There's a spot open at safety. There's a spot for the third guy. So Forney's a guy that could, I think, really step in, and he's already received a lot of buzz, through the first 2 days. Probably the guy we've heard about the most as a true freshman. The other guy that I'm really high on defensively is Marcus Jennings. He's a linebacker from Cass Technical High School in Detroit, Michigan. He's got the length. He's 6'2", 200, roughly 200 pounds. He moves sideline to sideline very well. I'm curious where he fits in the linebacker picture, because they have a lot of pieces. I don't know if they are deep there, but they have a lot of pieces just to work with. And Joe Bowen's the new linebackers coach there. Forgot to mention him earlier on when I was talking about the assistant hirings. So he's got a lot of guys to figure out where they go. Talked about Lovelace moving back outside. Jennings, he has a history of playing safety, so he could be a star, sort of a field linebacker, playing a little bit more in coverage. I really like, his promise and his upside. Offensively, I really like Rodney Dunbar. And the reason I like him at wide receiver is because he's 6'5". He does not fit the mold really at all of what Cade Bell and JJ Laster look for in receivers. They look for guys who are 5'11" and smaller. That's just what they do. They look for fast guys. Dunbar has the size. He can catch the ball, be a contested catcher, but also he's got quickness for a bigger guy. You don't find that very often for that type of size, more of a quick in and out of the breaks. But that's the thing he wants to work on, Dunbar, when he was talking to us. So I'm really curious and intrigued to see what happens there. And again, they got a couple other receivers. I think Dylan Wester, we saw him returning some kicks. Man, he's got some speed. I really like the speed from Dylan Wester. So who knows? I think it's going to be a little harder for him to get through the mess that's sort of at wide receiver, for lack of a better phrase. But Wester and Dunbar at receiver, just trying to think of some of the other guys at tight end. Why Villarreal? It's a tough last name to say, but he's from Salina, Texas. He's 6'5". Tight ends had some turnover in their room. He's got a good frame. He can run well. He was productive last year. He's a guy that I think could see the field for sure as a freshman. Him and Forney, really specifically at two positions where they can carve out a role. I think they could see the field those two for sure.
With a guy like Mason Heinzel back, how much does that elevate the expectations kind of around this program going into 2026? You're on the ground, you have a good feel for it. We know what we discussed with some of the key names leaving this program and things like that. But whenever you've got your quarterback back, it just seems like the expectations should and probably are elevated a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the thing that, Pitt's getting knocked on in the offseason, just not having a good offseason with the portal and the turnover and the coaching changes. But when you have a guy like that back, that's massive. And the big thing about him, maybe compared to some of the last couple of quarterbacks for Pitt, is his leadership. It's different. It's not your typical, okay, I got to be a leader as a quarterback. Like, he actually really embraces it. He wants his guys to get better. He's working with them. He's there long hours. And that was immediately seen when he stepped on campus as a true freshman this time last year. So now he's taking and elevating that next step. And, we talked to him, like I said, and he was just like, all the downfalls and the shortcomings at the end of the year last year, losing 3 of the last 4, that's all on me. Like, I got to make better plays. And I think that's the thing with him is Eli Holstein, not to throw any dirt on him, but I just don't think he was able to elevate as much in big time scenarios. Like 2 years ago against West Virginia, he had a big game to step up and had a couple big touchdowns, but he didn't do that much towards the end of the year. And then he got hurt. Then to start this year or 2025, had a couple bad losses, untimely turnovers, couldn't lead comebacks. Heinzel showed that he can really make a play when it matters. And I think that's going to be a pivotal component of this offense is you have a quarterback that can really go make plays, but also get the ball to your receivers. And there's just a nice mix with this offense right now. And I think it's going to be an offense that flies a little bit under the radar heading into this year just because Heinzel's back.
All right, let's shift gears for just 1 second. And I probably should have led with this because it's probably going to be a bad note. Pitt basketball. Yeah. Jeff Capel, the job and just where things stand there as the season comes to a close. What's your high level view of where things stand with Pitt basketball, and is there any chance that a change is made?
Yeah, I think there's a chance. I think it's just from just like kind of the feel I have right now, it's 50-50. Like, it seems like it's leaning in the direction that he could be out the door. However, the buyout for a basketball coach is pretty steep. It's at least $10 million, no less than that. He has still several years remaining through 29-30. So it's a tough move to make. And Alan Green obviously is probably sitting in his office with the people around him and the decision makers saying, man, this is huge, tough decision, because obviously Pitt, like many college programs, not in the best financial position, running a deficit again last year, as a lot of programs are. And they're working on a big capital project, Victory Heights, that's supposed to tailor towards the volleyball and gymnastics and wrestling programs. That's running them, steep cost there. But I think, there's been a lot of consideration towards this right now. And from some of the things we heard, that there are some money people at Pitt that have been raising some money to potentially help with the buyout. But we're heading into Saturday where it could be his last game. If Pitt loses, they're done. It's a must-win game for them, and I think this could possibly, we haven't heard anything for sure, substantial yet, but I think it could be that it could be his last game in Pittsburgh. 8 years, and you're 11-19 overall, 4-13 in the ACC. You're stepping backwards. The only thing that I think could save him and Alan Green's eyes are a few things. One, they really had a lot of misfortune this season with a couple of injuries. They brought in Deshaun Jackson, who was supposed to be their starting big, had a heart condition, was out all year. That was a tough loss. Another big had knee surgery. One of their leading scorer, Brandon Cummings, was lost for an ankle injury, had a procedure a couple of weeks ago. So you dealt with that. On top of that, you have a great recruiting class coming in, top 15 in the country coming in, 3 guys that are in the top 100, 110 ranked players in the country. And then the last thing is Pitt added a GM before the season, Jay Kuntz, and he really didn't get to put his fingerprints on this year's roster. So I think that's the only thing they could say, okay, we'll let you have a year. You got this money, go to the portal. You got these recruits coming in. build a roster and you got to compete. You got to, be top 10, top 8 in the ACC next year. And then that's it. Obviously put some more pressure on Capel, but I think there's a good chance that we can maybe have seen the last home game coached by Jeff Capel in Pittsburgh.
It's going to be fascinating to watch it unfold. Nathan Breisinger, nobody better than you at Pittsburgh Sports Now to have on, and we appreciate you, all your insights on Pitt, and we'll be looking forward to having a little spring postmortem on the Panthers.
Absolutely. Thanks, Billy, for having me.
There he goes. Enjoy this weekend, Nate, and thanks for coming on All Access AM. We appreciate you. And we appreciate all of you guys for tuning in to this edition of All Access AM. We'll wrap up here. A little preview of ACC basketball this weekend as we'll go through last night's action, the Wednesday night games. Of course, we touched on Miami beating SMU in Dallas last night, 77-69. Cal at Pitt. Cal at Georgia Tech. Cal comes away with a 76-65 win. Cal looking like, probably one of the top teams in the NIT right now. Florida State hung on at Pitt, 75-74. A nice win there to just kind of continue to push there and secure at minimum a 500 ACC record this season in Luke Locke's first year. If SMU obviously beats them on Saturday, they'll be 500 as a whole. If not, they'll finish 10-8 in league play after a start to the season that you thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be one of the worst teams in the league. But they've stepped up in league play and are really closing, for the most part, very strong. Stanford beats Notre Dame 86-78 in that matchup. And Saturday, we always like to run you guys through the slate. Virginia Tech at Virginia, 11 a.m. Central on the CW. A big matchup for Virginia Tech as far as making that one last push to get into the NCAA tournament. Or, of course, Virginia helping themselves with maybe some seeding here. But, of course, it's a rivalry game. Throw out the record books. It's a big game either way. That kicks off the day alongside Notre Dame at Boston College at 11 a.m. Central on ESPNU. Georgia Tech at Clemson, 11 a.m. on ACC Network. So a trio of games there to start things off. Louisville at Miami, the 1 o'clock slate, very good here. Louisville at Miami. They're facing the top 25 Hurricanes at 1 p.m. on ESPNU. We broke those down with Jamie Shaw as well as the SMU Florida State game, 1 o'clock on ACC Network. Little 115er on the CW. Stanford at NC State. You got to love the CW putting that cushion there for how long these college basketball games have seemingly gone this year. Stanford goes to NC State. Wolfpack looking to bounce back from their loss to Duke and finish the season the right way, at least in the regular season. They're 19-11 overall. This would secure a 20-win season for Will Wade. They're currently 6th in the ACC, so they have an opportunity here to, again, kind of just get over that kind of skid a little bit. It'd be really disappointing for the Wolfpack if they fell to 10-8 and lost this last one. They have a chance to get to 11-7, which is, it just feels a lot different. So kind of not a huge matchup there for Will Wade and company, but also one that has a chance to really make you feel a little bit better just if you get out of there with a win on senior day. Cal at Wake Forest. Cal goes literally coast to coast, 3 o'clock matchup in the ACC on ACC Network. Pittsburgh at Syracuse, 3:30 on the CW. A kind of a game with two coaches that feels like either one of those programs, like Nate Breisinger said, feels like either one of those programs can make a move after this season. Then, of course, the dessert, really the dinner, the main course, North Carolina at Duke, 5:30 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. Major matchup for Duke to kind of potentially put a bow on feeling really good about the number one overall seed in the tournament. They have a lot to play for in that respect. North Carolina has a lot to play for in terms of their seeding for the NCAA tournament, as well as this being the rivalry game. So, look, everybody, we appreciate you guys joining us on this edition of All Access AM. We're so happy that you guys are here with us 8 to 9 a.m. Central Time, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. We wrap up another week, the first week of March. We appreciate you guys for being here with us, and there's just so much that we have as spring football around the ACC is now rolling. So there are more teams that are going to get back at it, and we'll have more people to break it down with us on All Access AM. We'll be back Monday. We'll have a special guest, I'm sure, to break down the another team in the ACC on the football side, but we'll also have, I'm sure, James Fletcher to break down all the latest on bracketology with us as this weekend action is the final games of the regular season before next week's ACC tournament games get underway in Charlotte. We'll be covering it for you all here on All Access AM. Please hit that subscribe button. Support our sponsors, Horn Legend, Sportsmo, of course, all of our great sponsors for us. And we appreciate you guys for watching and listening. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll catch you next time on All Access AM.